What's going on, everybody? I've got a different type of match of mine that I'd like to share with you all today. If you've seen my video where I appeared on the Pool Player podcast, you heard me talk about how I was going to participate in this year's Texas State Open that just recently occurred over the Halloween weekend. Well, I was fortunate enough to be able to bring my cameras with me and set them up with my opponent's permission to be able to record my matches. And this video today is of my first match that I had during the event. And I am up against a top pro with a Fargo rating of 780. So let's see how I can do with a Fargo rating of 620 against a pro. Now, before we get into watching these racks, I did forget to mention the format. As you can see, we are playing 9-ball, and it's going to be a race to 9. And we are using Texas Express rules. And to quickly summarize that, to perform a legal break, you must either make a ball or get 4 balls, not including the cue ball, to hit a rail. And then after the break, if the incoming player does not like their opening shot, they can elect to do a push, or what's also known as a rollout, where they can literally push the cue ball anywhere on the table. And then the next incoming player can decide to shoot the shot from where the cue ball lays or give it back to the previous player. And then we are also using the 3 foul rule, where if a player fouls 3 consecutive times, then they automatically lose the rack. Now, with all that being said, let's check these racks out. Okay, so to determine who was going to break first, we were using a coin flip, and my opponent won, and so he'll be breaking first. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice, though, is that we are not using any type of template racks in this tournament. We are using the Delta 13 rack. So let's see how my opponent's first break goes. All right, we saw the 5-ball, which was the right wing ball in the rack, fly straight into the upper right corner pocket, which is very much like what it's supposed to do when you're using a template rack. The 1-ball did almost fall into the side pocket, but my opponent now has a shot for it in the upper left corner pocket. So let's see what he's going to do to get to the 2-ball. Judging by the way he's cueing on the cue ball, he's going to try to draw the cue ball above the 4-ball to have position on the 2. Now here you can see my opponent's planning ahead because he wants to see what the angle will look like after he makes the 2-ball to see what kind of shot he'll have on the 3-ball. And judging by that gesture, he's not going to move the cue ball at all. He'll play a stop shot on the 2-ball and have a slight cut on the 3-ball for the upper right corner pocket. Because now from here, my opponent can shoot the 3-ball in and push the cue ball over to the side rail and either come in between the 6 and the 9 or come above the 6-ball for position on the 4. So he decides to go in between the 6 and the 9, catches a second rail, and has really good position on the 4-ball because now you're going to see the cue ball come to the side rail again to come back out for position on the 6. So I want to say that maybe he hit that a little too hard. He pretty much wanted to have the same shot as he had on the 4-ball, but he's okay here because he can just draw the cue ball off of the 6-ball for position on the 7. So now from here, I think he'll draw off of the 7 to get position for the 8 to go into the upper left corner pocket. No, never mind. I guess the 8-ball passes by the 9-ball for the upper right corner pocket, so the 9-ball will be going into the same pocket. So watch the cue ball come off the short rail and then back out for position on the 9-ball. And my opponent starts the match off with a break and run, keeping me in my seat. And if you've ever wondered what it's like to have the wind knocked out of you, that's pretty much how I felt when I saw that opening rack. So now my opponent leads 1-0 going into rack 2. Let's see if I can get a shot in this rack. Okay, so the 8 ball was the right wing ball this time, and it goes straight into the corner pocket. We also saw that the 6 ball also fell into the same corner pocket. Here now it doesn't look like the 1 ball can be cut into the lower right corner pocket as the 7 ball blocks the path to it, so I should be able to come to the table at least in this rack. Okay, and my opponent plays a basic safety, leaving a lot of distance between the cue ball and the 1 ball, to which I try to answer back with my own safety. I'm going to hit the 1 ball on its left side so that it comes off of the short rail on the right side of the 9 ball, and I was trying to get the cue ball to hide behind the 4 ball. And as you can see, I hit it just a little too hard, and my opponent has a free shot at the 1 ball to go into the side pocket. So I'm a little unsure how my opponent got position on the 2 ball. The cue ball will clearly be tracking down towards the side rail, so he has to avoid the 7 ball and the scratch. So it looks like he has some top spin, at least on the cue ball. I can't tell if there's any side spin. Okay, so there had to have been left spin on the cue ball to get the cue ball to go 4 rails, and now has a thin cut shot on the 2 ball. So from here, we'll probably see the cue ball go from one side rail to the other as he tries to get position on the 3 ball to go into the upper right corner pocket. Ooh, but my opponent overcuts the 2 ball and jaws it into the pocket, so I have a free shot here. So there I was checking to see that the 3 ball passes by the 4 ball, so I'm going to play the 2 ball with some right spin on the cue ball to come off of the short rail and get on the right side of the 3 ball to play it into the same pocket. Okay, so what you see here is on one of the tables next to us is a 1 pocket event in this entire event. And I believe this was one of the semifinal matches that was occurring. And if anybody's familiar with 1 pocket, every player's turn is really rather slow as they try to figure out what they're going to do with their shot. So since this being my first match and we're next to a semifinal match, I was waiting for an opportunity to be able to take my shot without distracting the players on that table. All right, so from here, I'm going to shoot the 3 ball into the upper left corner pocket and just have my cue ball come off the side rail and back out so I can shoot the 4 ball into the same pocket. And I really wanted the cue ball to come back a little bit farther. You'll see why here in a second, because I have to shoot this left-handed, which was actually a mistake. I should have got the bridge instead. As you can see, I missed, but I also got super lucky that the 4 ball went 3 rails into the lower left corner pocket, and I even gestured my hand up to apologize to my opponent for getting lucky. Now I don't really have much to do with the 5 ball. Of course, I can try to cut it, but then I'm going to be losing position on the 7 ball unless I want to try to get the cue ball to come up and down the table. So instead, I tried to bank the 5 ball back up to the upper left corner pocket and try to have the cue ball stun over for position on the 7. So I missed the bank shot. I don't really have any type of good position on the 7 because it'd be a really thin cut shot if I made it. So now I think here my opponent just wants to make the 5 ball. I don't think there's any reason to try to move the cue ball around, especially with it being so close to the rail. So this is probably going to try to have the cue ball go from side to side. He is a little elevated, so maybe he is trying to draw the cue ball a little bit. Oh, he had to have. He was trying to bring the cue ball all the way back for the 7 ball. So he scratches, and I have ball in hand with only 3 balls left on the table. So what I wanted to do here was set myself straight in on the 5 ball, have the cue ball follow forward a little bit with some topspin so that I can cut the 7 ball into the corner pocket and have the cue ball come off the short rail and back up table for position on the 9. But I hit the cue ball a little too hard or with too much topspin because now I don't have the angle to use 1 rail. I actually have to try to go 2 rails. So I put top left spin on this shot here to have the cue ball come off the short rail and then the side rail to head back up table. I just wasn't expecting to bobble the 7 ball into the pocket, let alone scratch. So what you definitely saw there was after my opponent breaking and running the first rack, my nerves were already killing me, playing in a professional event like this. So my opponent pretty much sets up the same exact shot. So he's going to do the same exact thing that I was trying to do and have the cue ball go 2 rails, possibly 3 rails. So he does catch the 3rd rail, and his shot is successful. And my opponent is ahead now, 2-0. So one of the first things I had to take away from when I missed the 7 ball, besides being nervous, was the idea of how I think I'm a little spoiled with some of the tables that I have here in my area, because you can actually catch a rail, usually like anywhere from 1 diamond to half a diamond away, and the ball will still go in. I think at the very least here, I must have caught the point just before going into the pocket, and that's what caused it to bobble. So I need to learn to be more accurate and actually just hit the heart of the pocket, and therefore I won't rattle shots like I did there. So now the score is 2-0 in favor of my opponent. Let's see rack 3. Okay, so the wing ball was the 3 ball this time, and it misses the upper right corner pocket, but the 1 ball falls into the side pocket. Now my opponent has this long shot on the 2 ball, and it looks like the natural angle is going to have the cue ball come off of the short rail and run into the 9 ball. So I'm more than willing to bet, because we can't see, that my opponent has a little bit of right spin on the cue ball to get the cue ball to come around the right side of the 2 ball, just like that. Excellent position on the 3 ball. Opponent's probably going to have to stretch across the table. I think he's looking for the bridge, and I don't remember if we had one on this table. Yeah, so I think he's looking around for a bridge, and we don't want to disturb any of the other matches to borrow a bridge from their table. So I think he decides to just stretch across the table anyway. And you can see being stretched so far across the table, he doesn't decide to do anything with the cue ball. Now he's got this long shot on the 4 ball. Drills the 4 ball into the corner pocket, and judging by the cue ball it looks like there was some side spin on the cue ball, so maybe he tried to throw the 4 ball into the corner pocket, and that allowed him to have this type of position on the 5 ball. So he was able to hit it a little fuller than you actually would if you just shoot the shot with no side spin. Cuts the 5 ball in, catches the point of the side pocket, which prevents him from getting position on the 6 ball. So I'm pretty sure everybody has seen this shot once or twice in their pool career, where you have to try to kick the ball into the side pocket using the short rail, because that looks like what my opponent's going to try to do. Oh, and he just barely missed that. Now, fortunately, I have a shot on the 6 ball. The 7 ball does not block the path I need to be able to cut the 6 ball into the side pocket. And what you're going to see me do here is just gently roll the cue ball down to knock the 6 ball in. I should have position on the 7. So now from the 7, I want to try to gently draw the cue ball back for position on the 8 for the lower left corner pocket. But it doesn't matter if I can't make the shot. So I hope y'all noticed how I actually caught the outside of the inside of the pocket, and that's what caused it to bobble, and rather than catching the inside of the inside pocket. And that's what I meant by being more accurate. I normally would have thought that even though I caught the inside of the pocket that the ball should go in, but clearly that's not the case on these types of tables here. Even if you catch the jaws of the pocket, there are certain spots that you have to be able to hit in order for the ball to bobble its way in. Otherwise, it bobbles its way out. So that's what I was referring to about how I need to be more accurate and not catch the side rail or catch further inside of the pocket so that way it goes into the pocket. So that was another rack that I had an opportunity to be able to win, and I just blew it. And my opponent takes that rack down. So now I'm off to a really bad start, being down 0-3. Let's have a look at rack 4. Wing ball goes into the corner pocket as well as the 1 ball in the side pocket. And my opponent has a clear shot at the 2 ball. So I hope you all, as well as I am, are taking notes on how to break a 9-ball rack when you're not using a template rack. So now it looks like my opponent is waiting for the player in the 1-pocket event. All right, so let's see how my opponent decides to get position on the 3-ball. I see some right spin, so it looks like the cue ball will go off the short rail and then the side rail and back out, just like that. So we'll see the 3-ball go into the upper left corner pocket, and I'm more than willing to bet with some bottom left spin. He tries to draw the cue ball off of the side rail and come back for position on the 4. He wants the cue ball to get below the side pocket. But he scratches. Okay, so let's see if I can do something with ball in hand. And I have, what, 5 balls on the table? I mean, last time I had ball in hand with 3 balls on the table, I couldn't do anything. So from here, what I'm going to do is set the cue ball up to where I have an angle at the 4 ball to where the cue ball will automatically come off of the side rail. And with a center ball hit, I'm just going to have the cue ball come back towards the middle of the table, or at least head towards the 5 ball to play in the lower left corner pocket. And then from here, I can play the 5 ball with a little bit of draw to come behind the 8 ball so I can have position on the 7 ball for the side pocket. But watch this shot here. Watch what happens. Do you see how the 5 ball caught the side rail and still went in? But when I shot the 7 ball, or when my opponent shot his 2 ball, and we jawed or we hit the inside of the pocket and the ball does not go in. So this is where it gets really confusing, but nonetheless, I don't want to catch the side rail. I want the 5 ball to cleanly go in by itself so that way I don't have to worry about if it's going to rattle or not. Now there you saw me shoot the 7 ball into the side pocket, and I overran the cue ball to where I have to shoot the 8 ball in the upper left corner pocket because that was the pocket that I intended on, but I didn't want to have to do this back cut. So I can shoot this ball with some top spin and have the cue ball roll forward past this right side pocket to have position on the 9 ball for the same pocket. Just like that. And the way the 8 ball fell by hitting the inside of the pocket, that's what I was referring to. That's what I refer to as the heart of the pocket when you're at those kind of angles. If you can avoid hitting the jaws of the pocket and just go straight into the pocket, then that's also what I would want to be more accurate at doing. And now I'm finally on the board. All right, so I finally got a ray of hope getting on the board 1 to 3 going into the 5th rack. Let's see how my break goes. So I don't get my wing ball, the 7 ball, to go into the corner pocket, but I did see that the 3 ball fell. And I do have a shot on the 1 ball. So what I want to try to do here is shoot the 1 ball into the lower right corner pocket, and with some topspin, I want the cue ball to push itself up to the short rail or down to the short rail and then back out for position on the 2 in the side pocket. But that shot, I flat out missed. I'm not going to try to argue that I caught the outside of the point or anything like that. I just flat out missed that shot. So here it looks like my opponent has some left spin on the cue ball as he tries to cut the 1 ball into the corner pocket, and he does. So now he has position on the 2 ball. He's got an angle to where the cue ball will naturally track up table, so he has to be able to avoid the scratch. And it looks like he's looking to see if he wants to get position for the 4 to go into the side pocket or into the lower right corner pocket. So I see some right spin on the cue ball, so he catches the side rail and the short rail to hold position. So now he can choose either one. He's got an angle to where he can choose either the side pocket or the lower right corner pocket. And judging by that, he's going to try to shoot it in the side pocket and draw the cue ball back for position on the 5. Oh, but the 4 ball bobbles its way out of the side pocket, and I have a free shot at it now. And with the cut angle that I have on the 4 ball, I'm going to put bottom left spin on this cue ball to try to get the cue ball to come off of the side rail and then the short rail to come back out for position on the 5, just like this. Now there's going to be a little bit of a wait here because I was about to take the shot, and then I noticed that the 1 pocket player was going to take their turn. Now here I'm trying to also contemplate what am I going to do with my 6 ball as I wait. So here's where I can open a question up and ask, what would y'all do with this 5 ball? How would you play position for the 6 ball? Would you set up for a bank shot to go cross side? Would you try to get position for the 6 ball to go into the left side pocket? Or would you try to get position to cut it into the upper left corner pocket? Leave me a comment in the comment section below. Or better yet, would you just set up for the 6-7 combination? All right, because of the way I've been shooting, I don't want to set up for that 6-7 combination. I'm actually going to try to draw the cue ball back with some left spin and have the cue ball go 2 rails from side to side to try to get position for the 6 ball to go into the side pocket. I just fell a little short. You can see I'm looking, I can try it, but the window to get past the point of the side pocket is so small, and I'd rather be straighter on the 6 ball to try to go into the side pocket. So even from this angle now, I'm going to try to cut the 6 ball into the upper left corner pocket. And I just hit that so badly. So now I'm at the point to where after miss, after miss, after miss, my confidence just starts to go lower and lower and lower on top of being as nervous as I am. So how many of y'all have actually experienced that before where each miss just brings your confidence so much more lower and you really start to second guess yourself every time you come to the table? Oh, my opponent does a beautiful bank shot that allows him to hold position for the 7 ball in the upper left corner pocket. And more than likely, he'll be playing this with some bottom left spin to play position for the 8 ball to go into the right side pocket. Nicely done there. So now I can't tell if the angle requires my opponent to push the cue ball into the side rail and with left spin get better position on the 8 ball. But seeing how he's cueing center ball, it looks like he does have the natural angle to where a stun shot just carries the cue ball closer to the 9 ball. So now here again, he's waiting for the one pocket player or a one pocket player to shoot their shot. But judging by the way my opponent is playing, he is more than likely going to make this 9 ball. And my opponent takes that rack down. So now my ray of hope dwindles back down after losing that rack and being down 1-4 going into the 6th rack. Wing ball goes into the corner pocket as well as the 1 ball going into the side pocket. Cue ball gets a lucky kick off of the 6 ball to have better position on the 2 ball. Now it's more than likely that my opponent will roll the cue ball to the 2 ball and have the cue ball come off of the short rail and back out for position on the 3. And he wants position on the 3 to where the cue ball will naturally track over to the side rail. I don't think he wants to risk having the cue ball go towards the 5 and the 9. There it comes off of the short rail and just barely passes by the 4 ball. So it looks like he has the position that he would want. So you should see here how he can cut the 3 ball into the corner pocket and have the cue ball come off the side rail, probably with some left spin to get position on the 4 ball to go into the upper right corner pocket. Just like that. Looks like 2 rails. Now from here, he'll more than likely hold the position of the cue ball so he can have a cut angle on the 5 ball. So there he's more than likely looking at to see what the cut angle would look like if he just stops the cue ball. Okay, stop shot. So now the cue ball will more than likely hit the short rail, but will he use the side rail? He does. So there was left spin on the cue ball for the cue ball to do that. Comes down and gets perfect position on the 6 ball. So it looks like we're waiting on the 1 pocket table again. So he's so close to the side rail, or he's on the side rail, so he's going to have to put just top spin on this cue ball. He might put just a touch of right spin as he just rolls the cue ball for the 7 ball, probably to go to the right side pocket. And then with top spin again, he can just roll the 7 ball into the side pocket, and the cue ball will naturally track up table for position on the 9. And that would make 2 racks that my opponent has broke and ran on. So now my opponent has a comfortable lead, 5-1, going into the 7th rack. Again, we got the wing ball to go into the corner pocket as well as the 1 ball falling into the side pocket. So now it looks like my opponent can possibly cut the 3 ball into the upper right corner pocket. Judging by the spin he has on the cue ball, that is what he's going to be doing. We should see the cue ball go 2 rails off of the short rail and then the side rail, come back down table for position on the 4 ball in the side pocket. Now from here, it's questionable on whether or not if my opponent's going to set up for a bank shot on the 5 ball or maybe even play a defensive shot, because I don't see a way for him to get the cue ball back up table to possibly break out the 5 ball. More than likely, the cue ball will go over to the side rail and with some right spin, spin back towards the middle of the table. So it looks like he's set up for the bank shot. The 5 ball will be going towards the lower left corner pocket. Oh, never mind. My opponent plays a defensive shot and leaves me hooked behind the 6 ball. So I take a quick glance at it and go grab my jump cue, as I'm going to try to jump over the 6 ball and try to back cut the 5 ball into the lower left corner pocket. And I just barely missed it. I was at least happy that I hit the ball. The last thing I want to give this guy is ball in hand. And I think I got a little fortunate because I don't think he can see the 5 ball to where he can make it in the upper left corner pocket. But I'm also unfortunate because he answers back with another safety. So here I'm trying to measure up to see where I need to hit the side rail in order to scratch. But I don't want to shoot that shot because I don't want to scratch. But if I have an idea on where I'm going to scratch, if I just hit to the right of that measurement, then I should be short of the corner pocket that I would scratch in and hopefully go 2 rails to be able to clip the 5 ball. But clearly, I must have misjudged it. You can see where I'm tapping on the table where I wanted the cue ball to catch the second rail in order to have a chance at hitting the 5 ball. Because now with ball in hand, which is something I did not want to give my opponent, you can see him set up for the 5 ball to back cut it into the corner pocket, and the cue ball will naturally come out for position on the 6 to go into the same pocket. Now from here, he'll more than likely roll the 6 in. The cue ball will come off of the side rail and back out for the 7 ball to go into the lower right corner pocket. Here, he'll probably just roll the cue ball again so he can shoot the 8 ball into the upper right corner pocket. Well, wait a minute. He's got draw on the cue ball. Is he going to draw it to the side pocket? That's what he does. And then shoot the 8 ball into the side pocket. The cue ball will come off of the side rail and probably get position for the 9 ball to go into the right corner pocket. And this is starting to look hopeless for me as my opponent is now up 6-1 going into the 8th rack. All right, now going into the 8th rack, let's see if I can get a chance to do something. Okay, the wing ball does not fall this time, but the 1 ball still falls into the side pocket, and my opponent has a straight shot at the 2 ball for the upper right corner pocket. And it looks like he's going to draw off of the 2 ball for position for the 3, maybe in the lower right corner pocket. Oh, never mind. I think that is referred to as a stun run through, or you can probably just call it a drag shot. And by the time the cue ball got to the 2 ball, it had 1 or 2 revolutions of forward spin on it, and that's what allowed the cue ball to track forward, even though it looked like my opponent hit the cue ball with bottom spin. He is successful at making the 3 ball into the lower left corner pocket and has position on the 4 ball for the upper right. More than likely, we'll just hit this ball with some bottom spin to have the cue ball come off of the side rail and get position for the 5. Yep, I don't think there was any right spin on that cue ball, maybe just a little. But now, how does my opponent get position on the 6 ball? It looks like he's going to have to try to come 3 rails and land on the short side of the 6 ball or on the right side of the 6 ball. So it looks like he might have some right spin on the cue ball. That is what he's trying. But the cue ball runs a little too far. So now we're more than likely going to see some type of safety. I'm not exactly sure what type of safety my opponent is trying to play here. And maybe he doesn't know what type of safety he wants to play. I'm guessing he can't cut that 6 ball so thin so where the 6 ball doesn't really move because he'll just scratch in the corner pocket. And if he is trying to go 2 rails like that, I guess he was trying to make sure he didn't want the cue ball to run back into the 6 ball. So he is successful. I can see the 6 ball, but I can't make it. The 7 ball actually blocks the path for me to be able to try to cut the 6 ball into the upper left corner pocket. So I'm going to try to answer back with a safety of my own by having the 6 ball come off the short rail and head back down table, and I want the cue ball to hide behind the 7 ball. So you can see how the cue ball is trying to get behind the 7 ball, but I didn't hit it with enough pace. And now my opponent has a shot at the 6 ball for the lower left corner pocket, though I don't think he would want to try it, because if he tries to shoot the 6 ball into the lower left corner pocket and tries to hold position for the 7, he'll more likely scratch in the side pocket. maybe he can just roll it forward and play the 7-9 combination. But I certainly didn't see that shot coming. That was an amazing cut cross bank shot, and he got perfect position for the 7 ball to go into the side pocket. So I'm more than willing to bet that he just shoots this into the side and probably draws the cue ball. Looks like he's trying to draw the cue ball for the 8 in the lower right. Oh, he manages to go around it for the upper right. Or is he cutting it into the side pocket? He cuts it to the side pocket, and he has automatic position for the 9 ball into the upper right corner pocket. And my opponent takes another rack down. So now here's rack 9, and my opponent has a commanding lead, 7-1. The wing ball goes into the corner pocket. The 1 ball goes into the side pocket. The 2 ball falls in the upper left corner pocket, and the 7 ball falls in the lower right corner pocket. 4 balls on the break. Whew, man. But it doesn't look like he has a shot on the 4 ball. Let's see what he does here. And off the rail, kick shot at the 4 ball. And it looks like I can see the 4 ball, but I clearly can't make it. So if I remember correctly, I think the safety that I tried to play here was to clip the 4 ball on the right side. It's going to carry him off of the 9 ball, and I'm going to have the cue ball go to the short rail and come back around to get on the other side of the 5 ball. So I don't think I quite made it there, but I think at least the 9 ball is covering me. My opponent at least does not have a clear shot on the 4 ball. You can see he's going to kick at the short rail to try to hit the 4 ball. And from this angle, the cue ball should be tracking down table like that. I got a little fortunate that the cue ball caught the point of the side pocket. Otherwise, I'd be at the other end of the table. But I still can't see the 4 ball, so I have to try to kick at it. I'm going to come 1 rail off of the side rail and gently try to come into the 4 ball so that the 4 ball goes on the other side of the 9 ball. So at least here, we either see another safety or maybe my opponent tries to bank it. And we see another safety. I would have rather that ball drop, though. Because then he would have saved himself for the 5 ball. So not entirely sure what to do here, but I tried to do a small masse around the 9 ball. If I am successful at making the 4 ball, I'll at least be able to see the 5 ball. It's not like I'll be able to play position. But I don't make it, I'm at least fortunate enough to be able to hit it and not commit a foul. And I think the 4 ball can go into the side pocket. And it can. So now my opponent has position for the 5 ball to go into the upper right corner pocket. The cue ball should be coming off of the short rail and then the side rail, perhaps to play the 6 in the same pocket, or if he comes all the way around for the 6 in the other corner pocket. Now, I can't tell what the angle is here, but we can see that he's putting top spin on the cue ball, so the cue ball is definitely rolling forward. Let's see what the angle looks like. Okay, that was enough for him to come to the short rail and back out for position on the 8. These are some long shots. So he tries to cut the 8 ball into the lower right corner pocket and have the cue ball come off of the short rail. Probably hit the side rail too as it comes up for a position on the 9 in the upper right corner pocket. Just like that. My opponent's able to take that one down and is now on the hill 8-1. All right, now with my opponent on the hill, I gotta try to be able to turn this around. Let's see if I get a chance to do so. Wing ball goes into the corner pocket, and the 1 ball goes into the side pocket. And my opponent has a clear shot at the 2 ball for the upper left corner pocket. So it looks like he's going to try to hold position for the 3 ball to go in the upper right corner pocket. Okay, from here it looks like he can draw to the side rail and have position for the 4 in the lower right. Oh, he draws it even more to get position on the lower left. Okay, now it looks like he'll have the cue ball go to the side rail, and with some right spin on the cue ball, the cue ball should hit the rail before the side pocket and spin over to the right to the center of the table. So now he has position for the 6 ball in the upper left corner pocket. This is starting to not look good for me. We can see the right spin he has on the cue ball, so the cue ball will hit the short rail and then spin off to the right for position on the 7 ball in the upper right corner pocket. And then now from here, it looks like he can try to maybe draw the cue ball straight back. I don't know if he'll use the side rail or not, but he'll have position for the 8 ball in the lower left corner pocket. So he does use the side rail. And that looks like draw again, so he'll probably draw back over to the side rail again for position on the 9. And look at that. He opened the matchup with a break and run, and he finishes the matchup with a break and run. And I pretty much got destroyed 1-9. And that's going to do it for today's video. Now, I know I've seen some comments before on some of my APA Pool League matches where viewers were interested in me posting matches where I lose. And I have actually lost some APA matches before in the past. I just didn't have my cameras on me at the time to record myself or any of my teammates. Or my opponent just wasn't comfortable with me posting the match on YouTube. So, what better way for me to share a match where I lose than a professional match like this? My opponent played so wonderfully and just completely destroyed me 1-9. I was pretty much shaken up right after that first rack that he broke and ran on. And then after I missed those 2 7 balls the way that I did, everything just went completely downhill and I wasn't able to hold my nerves together. Because you even saw that when I did have other chances at the table, I had to recover from some sort of safety that my opponent put me in. So some people might actually think, well, why bother playing in an event like that where your chances of being successful are virtually slim to none? And my only answer that I have to that is I learn best when I lose like the way that I did here, because it clearly opens my eyes up as to what I need to work on to improve my game. And what I was able to take away from this match is I need to be more accurate at down the rail shots and not have the object ball catch the rail on the way to the pocket or catch the outside jaw of the pocket so that way the ball will actually go in. I also saw that I need to improve my safety game because some of the safeties that I played were failed attempts, and my opponent just had a free shot at the object ball. And then I also saw that I need to improve my kicking game, because usually I just play a kick to hit, and I don't exactly know where the cue ball will go if I'm successful at making the hit. So I need to improve that in such a way to where I know that I'm going to either kick to make or kick to play safe. So those are the things that I'm clearly going to be working on up until next year for next year's event. So I hope everybody was able to enjoy this video and learn the things that I learned on top of anything else that you would have learned from what you saw that my opponent was able to do. So if you like what you saw, give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Take care, everybody.